They laughed when you stayed quiet, watched you like you were already finished, measured you with their small minds, and decided you were nothing more than background noise in their little story. Funny thing is, people love underestimating what they don't understand. See, while they were busy talking, clapping for themselves, gasping for air, trying to keep up with a world they barely control, you were learning how it all works. Every insult, every doubt, every moment they thought you were breaking. You were building something they couldn't see. They thought this was a game they already won. Thought you'd fold like everyone else they stepped on, but they never stopped to ask the one question that actually matters. What happens when the person they tried to bury becomes the mind they can't outplay anymore? They looked at you and made a decision in seconds. Not based on truth, not based on depth, but on what was easy for them to understand. That's how most people survive. They simplify everything. They put labels on you, reduce you, shrink you down until you fit inside their comfort zone. And the moment they do that, the moment they convince themselves they've figured you out, they stop paying attention. That's where it begins. Being underestimated isn't an insult. It's a blindfold they willingly put over their own eyes. While they're busy dismissing you, they stop preparing for you. They stop questioning you. They stop imagining that you could ever be a threat. And that gives you something rare: space. Space to observe, to learn, to adapt without pressure. No expectations, no spotlight, no one watching closely enough to notice what you're becoming. People who are seen as strong are constantly tested. Every move they make is watched, challenged, analyzed. But you move in silence. You make mistakes without consequences. You grow without resistance. You evolve right in front of them. And they don't even notice it happening, because in their minds, you're still the same person they already judged. That's the advantage. Underestimation strips away the weight of proving yourself. You don't have to perform for anyone. You don't have to convince them of your worth. In fact, the more they doubt you, the better it gets. Their doubt becomes a shield, protecting your progress from interference. While they're investing energy in people they consider worthy, you're investing energy in becoming something they'll never be able to predict. And prediction is everything. People feel safe when they think they understand the pattern, when they believe they know how you think, how you react, how far you can go. But when you break that pattern, when you step outside of the version of you they created in their heads, you don't just surprise them, you destabilize them. Because now they're forced to confront something they ignored, something they misjudged. That moment hits harder than any display of power, because it's not just about proving them wrong, it's about making them question their own perception. If they were wrong about you, what else are they wrong about? That doubt creeps in slowly at first, then all at once, and suddenly, the person they dismissed becomes the one they can't confidently read anymore. There's something unsettling about that. You don't need to be louder, stronger, or more aggressive. You just need to be unseen long enough to become unpredictable. The world rewards noise, but it's built on patterns. Break those patterns quietly, and you control more than they realize. The truth is, people don't fear what they see coming. They fear what catches them off guard. and nothing catches them off guard more than the person they decided wasn't worth watching. So, let them think you're small. Let them believe you're limited. Let them hold onto that comfortable illusion while you change behind the scenes. Because the moment they realize they were wrong isn't just a moment of surprise. It's a shift in control. Noise is a distraction people willingly drown in. They talk to feel important, to convince themselves they exist louder than their doubts. Every word they throw out is a signal, a piece of themselves exposed without realizing it. And while they're busy filling the air with sound, they assume silence means absence. They assume quiet means weakness, confusion, hesitation. They assume if you're not speaking, you're not thinking. That assumption is where they lose control. Silence isn't emptiness. It's restraint. It's choosing not to reveal what's forming beneath the surface. When you stay quiet, people start projecting their own ideas onto you. They fill in the blanks with whatever makes them feel comfortable. They create a version of you that fits their expectations, and once they believe it, they stop questioning it. That version becomes their reality, even if it has nothing to do with who you actually are. And that gives you something most people never have: privacy in plain sight. When you don't rush to explain yourself, you're not just holding back words, you're holding back information. Information about how you think, how you react, what you value, what triggers you. Most people give that away freely. They reveal their plans before they act, their emotions before they understand them, their intentions before they're ready. And then they wonder why they're predictable, why they're easy to read, why others can anticipate their every move. But silence disrupts that pattern. It forces people to guess, and guessing is dangerous when they're guessing wrong. The less they know, the more unstable their perception becomes. They can't prepare for what they don't understand. They can't counter what they can't define. And while they're trying to figure you out, they're exposing themselves in the process. They talk more, reveal more, react more. They show you exactly how they think, exactly where they're weak, exactly how they can be outplayed. You learn without being seen learning. There's power in that kind of invisibility. You observe patterns others miss because they're too busy being noticed. You see how people react under pressure, how they contradict themselves, how they crumble when things don't go their way. And the more you watch, the more precise you become. Your actions stop being random. They become calculated, intentional, timed. Silence gives you control over timing. When you finally choose to speak or act, it carries weight because it's rare. It disrupts the rhythm people have grown comfortable with. They weren't expecting it. They didn't prepare for it. And that single moment can shift the entire dynamic because it comes from a place they never had access to. People underestimate how unsettling that feels. They trust what they can hear. They rely on constant feedback, constant noise, constant reassurance that they understand what's happening around them. Take that away, and they start to feel uncertain. And uncertainty makes people careless. They overcompensate, they overreact. They expose more than they should just to regain a sense of control. All while you remain still, collecting everything they give away. Silence isn't about hiding because you're afraid. It's about choosing when to be seen, when to be heard, and when to let others reveal themselves without interruption. It's knowing that power doesn't come from constant expression, but from controlled release. Because the one who speaks less often decides when the moment matters, and the one who controls the moment controls far more than anyone realizes. Pain has a way of exposing what you really are. Not the version you show the world, not the version people clap for, but the one that exists when everything comfortable is stripped away. Most people run from that moment. They avoid it, numb it, bury it under distractions because it forces them to face something they don't want to admit. That they're not as strong as they pretend to be. But pain doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It waits, it builds, and when it finally hits, it doesn't ask for permission. The difference is in what you do when it arrives. For some, pain becomes proof that they should stop. It convinces them they've reached their limit, that they're not built for more, that the pressure is a sign to retreat. They break, not because the pain is unbearable, but because they never learned how to use it. They let it define them instead of refining them. But there's another way to look at it. Pain is information. It tells you exactly where you're weak, where you're unprepared, where your illusions fall apart. Every failure, every rejection, every moment that cuts deeper than expected is pointing at something specific, something you can fix, something you can understand, something you can turn into an advantage if you're willing to face it without flinching. That's where most people stop. They don't want to analyze it. They don't want to sit in it long enough to understand it. Because understanding pain means taking responsibility for it. It means admitting that maybe you weren't ready. Maybe you made the wrong move. Maybe you trusted the wrong person. Maybe you believed something that wasn't true. And that kind of honesty is uncomfortable. So they choose comfort over growth. But if you stay with it, if you resist the urge to escape, something changes. The emotion starts to fade, and what's left is clarity. You begin to see patterns. You notice the same mistakes repeating, the same triggers pulling you into the same outcomes. And once you see the pattern, you can break it. That's where pain transforms. It stops being something that controls you and starts becoming something you control. You take what hurt you and turn it into awareness. You become more precise, more calculated, less reactive. The things that once shook you start to feel predictable. And when something is predictable, it's manageable. That's how it sharpens you. Every time you face pain without running, you build a kind of resilience that isn't loud or visible, but it's there. It changes how you think, how you decide, how you move. You stop reacting emotionally to everything and start responding with intention. You don't waste energy on things that don't matter. You don't chase validation from people who don't understand you. You don't repeat the same mistakes just because they're familiar. You evolve, and while others are still trying to avoid discomfort, still trying to protect themselves from anything that challenges them, you're stepping into it with awareness. You're using it as a tool, not a threat. You're letting it shape you into something more focused, more disciplined, more dangerous in a way they won't recognize until it's too late. Because the person who has faced their pain and learned from it doesn't react the same way anymore. They don't panic. They don't fold. They don't lose control when things go wrong. They've already been there, already felt it, already broken it down, and rebuilt themselves from it. And that changes everything about how they play the game. Power impresses people because it's loud. It's visible. It's easy to understand. Strength, dominance, aggression. Those are the things most people rely on because they don't require much thinking. You push harder, you speak louder, you try to overpower whatever stands in your way. And sometimes it works, at least for a while. It gives the illusion of control, but force has limits. There's always someone stronger, louder, more aggressive. If your entire strategy is built on overpowering, then all it takes is someone with more intensity to break you. And when that happens, you have nothing left to fall back on. No adaptability, no awareness, no control over the situation beyond raw effort. That's where most people fail. They confuse effort with intelligence. They believe if they just try harder, push more, dominate more, they'll win. But the truth is, effort without direction is just noise. It burns energy without creating real advantage. It makes you predictable. Because when someone knows your only move is to push harder, they know exactly how to handle you. They step aside. They let you exhaust yourself. They let you reveal everything. Outsmarting works differently. It's quiet, subtle, almost invisible until it's already done. It doesn't rely on force. It relies on understanding. Understanding people, patterns, timing. It's knowing when not to act just as much as knowing when to move. It's recognizing that every situation has leverage points, and you don't need to control everything. You just need to control the right thing at the right moment. That requires patience. Most people don't have it. They rush. They react. They let emotions dictate their decisions because it feels natural. It feels immediate. But immediate reactions are easy to predict. If you know someone will always respond with anger or fear or desperation, then you can guide them exactly where you want them to go. They think they're acting freely, but they're following a script. Outsmarting breaks that script. It forces you to step back and observe before you move. To ask questions others ignore. Why is this happening? What does the other person want? Where are they vulnerable? What are they not seeing? And once you understand those things, you don't need to overpower them. You just need to shift the situation slightly, apply pressure in the right place, and let the outcome unfold. It's less effort, more impact, and it's unsettling for people who rely on strength, because they don't see it coming. They're prepared for resistance, for confrontation, for a fight they can engage in. But they're not prepared for something they can't directly challenge. They're not prepared for someone who doesn't play by the obvious rules. You don't meet force with force. You redirect it. You let them believe they're in control while you quietly adjust the variables around them. You let them commit to decisions that lead them exactly where you want them. And by the time they realize something is off, it's already too late to change it. That's the difference. Overpowering is about proving something in the moment. Outsmarting is about controlling the outcome before the moment even arrives. One is reactive, the other is intentional. One depends on how much you have, the other depends on how well you think. And thinking, when done right, doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to be seen to be effective. It just needs to be precise enough to turn every situation into an advantage without anyone fully understanding how it happened. People like order because it makes them feel safe. Structure, routine, predictability. It gives them the illusion that everything is under control. They build their lives around patterns, repeating the same behaviors, trusting the same systems, believing that as long as nothing changes too much, nothing can go wrong. And for a while, that illusion holds, until it doesn't. Chaos isn't some rare event. It's always there, just waiting for the right moment to surface. One mistake, one unexpected shift, one crack in the system, and everything people relied on starts to unravel. Plans fall apart. Expectations collapse. And suddenly, all that confidence they had disappears, because it was never built on control. It was built on comfort. That's when the truth shows up. Chaos doesn't create weakness. It reveals it. It exposes who was prepared and who was pretending. When things are stable, anyone can look composed. Anyone can act like they know what they're doing. But when the pressure hits, when nothing goes according to plan, that's when real control is tested. Most people panic. They scramble to restore what they lost, trying to force things back into the structure they're used to. They react emotionally, make rushed decisions, cling to whatever feels familiar even if it no longer works. And in that panic, they lose even more control, because chaos doesn't respond to desperation. It amplifies it. The more they fight blindly, the worse it gets. But there's a different way to move through it. Instead of resisting chaos, you study it. You accept that unpredictability isn't something to eliminate, it's something to understand. You stop expecting things to go perfectly and start preparing for them to go wrong. And when they do, you don't freeze. You don't react impulsively. You adapt. That's where control begins to shift. Because while everyone else is overwhelmed, you're observing. You're watching how people respond, where they break, where they hesitate, where they expose their vulnerabilities. Chaos speeds everything up. It forces decisions, reveals priorities, strips away the layers people hide behind. And if you're paying attention, it gives you information you would never get in a controlled environment. Information most people miss because they're too busy trying to survive the moment. But survival isn't the same as control. Control comes from clarity, from being able to see the situation as it is, not as you wish it to be. It comes from staying grounded when everything around you is unstable. While others are reacting to every shift, you're identifying patterns within the disorder, because even chaos has structure. It's just harder to see. And once you start seeing it, you can start using it. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to restore order immediately. You just need to position yourself correctly within the disruption. You find the gaps others overlook, the opportunities hidden inside the confusion. You move when it matters, not when it feels urgent. That's what separates control from reaction. People assume control means holding everything together. But real control is knowing how to move when everything is falling apart. It's being comfortable in the uncertainty that others fear. It's understanding that chaos isn't the enemy, it's a test that most people fail, because they were never ready for anything outside their routine. But the one who doesn't rely on stability, the one who can think clearly when everything is unstable, becomes something different in that moment, not stronger in the obvious sense, not louder, not more aggressive, but more aware, more precise, more capable of turning confusion into advantage. And in a world that constantly shifts, the one who can navigate chaos without losing control is the one who was never dependent on order to begin with. People spend most of their lives trying to be understood. They explain themselves, repeat themselves, adjust themselves just to fit into expectations that were never designed for them. They want to be seen clearly, labeled correctly, placed into something that makes others comfortable. And the moment that happens, the moment people think they understand you, they stop questioning you. That's when you become predictable. Predictability is easy to manage, easy to control. If someone knows how you think, how you react, what you value, they can anticipate your moves before you even make them. They don't need to be smarter than you. They just need to know you well enough to stay one step ahead. And most people give that advantage away without realizing it. They show everything too early, too openly, too consistently. They become patterns. But patterns can be studied, broken, outplayed. Becoming the mind they never saw coming isn't about hiding completely. It's about refusing to be defined in a way that limits your movement. It's about understanding that every time someone thinks they've figured you out, you've already given them too much. You've allowed them to build a version of you that they can prepare for. So you change that. You stop reacting the same way every time. You stop giving predictable answers, predictable emotions, predictable responses. You become intentional with what you reveal and what you hold back. Not to confuse for the sake of confusion, but to remove the comfort others rely on when dealing with you. Because comfort creates confidence, and when people feel confident in their understanding of you, they lower their guard. They make assumptions. They take risks based on those assumptions, and that's where you gain control, not by force, not by dominance, but by disrupting what they think they know. You let them believe one thing while you're building something else entirely. It requires awareness. You have to understand yourself first, your habits, your tendencies, your natural reactions. Because if you don't see your own patterns, you can't break them. You can't evolve past them. You'll keep repeating the same behaviors, and others will keep using those behaviors against you. So you observe yourself the same way you observe others. You question your impulses. You pause before reacting. You choose responses instead of defaulting to them. And over time, that creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. That distance is where unpredictability is built. Not random, not chaotic, controlled. People often mistake unpredictability for recklessness, but recklessness is just another pattern, just another form of being easy to read. True unpredictability is calculated. It has direction, even if others can't see it. It's about making decisions that don't fit into the expectations placed on you. Decisions that force others to constantly reassess their understanding. And that reassessment creates hesitation. Hesitation slows people down. It makes them second, guess themselves, question their assumptions, doubt their strategies. And while they're stuck in that loop, trying to figure out what you'll do next, you've already moved. That's the shift. You're no longer reacting to the game. You're influencing how it's played. You're no longer confined to the role others gave you. You're redefining it in real time. And the more you do that, the harder it becomes for anyone to confidently stand against you. Because they're not dealing with a fixed version of you anymore. They're dealing with something that adapts, something that evolves, something that refuses to stay within the limits they created. And when someone can't predict you, can't define you, can't reduce you to something simple, they lose their sense of control. And without that control, every move they make becomes uncertain. Every decision carries doubt. Every assumption feels unstable, while you continue forward, not louder, not obvious, but always one step beyond the version of you they thought they could beat.